Rules Committee will be in order, and thank you very much for joining us again this evening. I want to thank all of our committee members on both sides of the aisle, Republicans, Democrats, as well as the staff who have worked very diligently over the last few weeks on this very important issue. And tonight we are once again considering a resolution designed to prevent a government shutdown. The last few weeks have shown that the House and the Senate have significant differences on how to appropriate and to fund the government. We have been unable, our top leadership, to deal with the Senate Majority Leader, Harry Reid, and other Senate Democrats, and we have not been able to cut a deal up to now. As a result, tonight's legislation will direct the United States House of Representatives to go to conference with the Senate in an effort to legitimate all the negotiations that remain ahead. I am very confident that what can happen, and there is a process in place that my colleagues are very aware of, that as quickly as we pass this rule on the floor, that conferees will be prepared to meet. The bottom line is House Republicans still desire to delay or defund or dismantle Obamacare, and we're going to stick to this effort. I want to welcome Bob Slaughter to tonight's meeting and recognize the gentlewoman, the ranking member from New York.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to say on behalf of the Democrat caucus that we find it more than passing strange that after trying for months to get a conference set up to discuss the budget of the United States, and we were totally unable to do, that we were going to call together a conference for a measure that only has 6 weeks of life. But nonetheless, I know you're going to do that, but I would like to know if you have any assurance that the Senate is going to take your challenge.
I assume that's a question for me?
That's a question. I'd like to know if you have any assurance from Senator Reid that he will appoint conferees.
It is my hope that Senator Reid will see that the right hand of an offer will be extended to him. The Majority Leader and the Speaker are both prepared to act immediately, and I'm sure that the Minority Leader would do the same. These things happen about every 17 years, it seems. Avoiding them requires great skill, and it is our hope that this evening we will be able to put reasonable people in a room, the House of Representatives, and I'm sure will do that with conferees that will be appointed.
It would indeed take some skill, and apparently there isn't any here, because without a doubt, the government's going to shut down in what, about an hour and a half or less? Hour and 15 minutes. And we don't know how long, if this conference is even allowed, how long it will take. And again, as I said, almost everything that needs to be said has been said, but I think I would like to express again my concern. This did not have to happen. All we ever had to do was to simply take the Senate bill, a clean CR that would have seen us through for 6 weeks, and while it give us time to really work on some solutions here to our problems. But instead, we've come up with another fancy two-step here, and we have no choice, I think, but to see that through. But I do hope lessons are going to be learned from all this. It's very difficult to run a House when only one half of it gets to talk, and the other half has no input into any decisions that are made. As a matter of fact, we just now saw this, as you know.
Yes, ma'am, I do know that.
We got hints from people that something like this was coming up, but to be really informed is something that would have been very helpful to us. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. We will be voting no.
Gentlewoman yields back her time. I would say with hope that what Senate Republicans hope to do is to come to the table. House Republicans hope to come to the table. Senate Democrats and House Democrats, and I would say that as soon as we see who those conferees are, that'll tell us a lot about it too. It's not just the fight and the dog, it's the dog and the fight. And it will have a lot to do with the success of this rain dance that's going to have to take place now. Does anyone else wish to speak? Seeing none, we will.
I do.
The gentlewoman's
yes.
recognized.
Thank you very much, because it was just pointed out to me that under regular order of the House, any member can call for a vote on the Senate proposal, but you've changed that regular order under this resolution that only the majority leader can do it. Can you tell us why you did that?
In fact, that is correct. What we're attempting to do is to actually get our people together rather than trying to make a decision. We're trying to actually have a conference. And the gentlewoman knows that there are rules related to privileged motions that could take place almost effective immediately, and we're trying to go to conference. So we think
Well,
this
I
is the
understand you are, but
quickest
that
way to
doesn't
get
tell
that
me why
done.
you changed the regular order so
Because-
that only Mr.
because-
Pierce can do that under the rule.
Well, in fact, you're correct again. And the reason why is because we're attempting to get the four groups of people together: Senate Republicans and Democrats, House Republicans and Democrats. And under those rules that you know that you were in reference to, there could be a motion as early tonight, and it could be a conference would be avoided. And we want a conference. We want to have a
Wait,
actual
hang on,
discussion.
explain that to me. There could be
Well,
a motion to
Yeah,
do what?
you know that there could be a privileged motion at any time once
To
we,
call for a vote on the Senate resolution.
I believe that
Well,
would be
I think you've
correct.
taken that away
That's
from
what I'm saying,
us.
we took that away. Because what
Well,
we're
then
trying to do
how
is
can
go
we
to
do it
conference.
at any time if
I
you've taken it away?
I said you were correct, we took it away, and the reason why is because we want to go to conference.
Oh, mercy.
I know, Louise, it just, the beatings won't end.
It just gets deeper and deeper, but.
Well, the bottom line is that you should see the resolve that we have to gain the four groups of people to come
I'm going to tell you the
together.
resolve I think you've got.
Yes, ma'am.
And despite the fact that every one of you said over and over ad nauseum that you didn't want to shut the government
That's
down.
correct.
We spent some time downstairs in my office watching some television tape of so many of your members, right after they were elected in 2010,
Yeah.
saying how much they would like to shut down the House to great applause. And the fact that at any time you could have stopped this and we could have gotten it over with, and you would not have caused that awful disruption that we're going to see. And for people who haven't been through this before, wait till the phone calls start in your office. I think it's really short-sighted. I think it is an atrocity to the rules of the House. And I think that you're putting the whole country through this angst and this aggravation that we did not need to go. This one we could have done without. And I must tell you that I'm more and more angry now that I understand that what you've done is take away our ability to really make a motion for that Senate vote.
Okay, further discussion, seeing none, the gentleman is right, excuse me, the gentleman from Massachusetts recognized.
No, I thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I know you're not thrilled being here, but it is frustrating after having gone through multiple Rules Committee meetings and all this ping-ponging back and forth that we're here today with you requesting that we go to conference when, in fact, for 6 months, the Republican leadership has refused to appoint conferees on the budget, and now with like 60 minutes left, we're going to go to conference on the continuing resolution. I don't think I'm exaggerating here that by the time we finish here and by the time it gets to the floor, by the time we have the debate, it'll be past midnight, and the government will be officially shut down. So I think this is an indication that a shutdown is unavoidable. I know you're fast talkers, but, I can't imagine you working out any differences in the time between now and the time the government's going to shut down. And I would just say that, I think it's bad news for millions of people across this country. It's bad news for this economy. I just want to say one final thing to my Republican friends. I make no secret of the fact that I'm a liberal Democrat, and I detest the budget numbers that you have come up with, and which makes it even more baffling that we're here in this predicament, given the fact that in the CR, your beloved sequester numbers are protected. Those aren't numbers that I like. And in the spirit of compromise and of keeping the government open, for 5 weeks or 6 weeks, I'm willing to give a vote for that continuing resolution, notwithstanding the fact that I think those numbers are awful. I really do. But even more awful is shutting the government down. And so when you talk about compromise, understand that there are many of us who are compromising. And to even contemplate accepting those numbers is a huge deal for some of us. And for this to become not enough for the extreme right wing of your party or whoever's calling the shots, too bad. Compromise is a two-way street, and it's not just us giving and giving and giving. You have to give a little bit too. And I appreciate the fact you're going to compromise. I hope your senator from Texas is signed off on this, because in the past he's objected to going to conference for fear that the debt ceiling might be part of that deal. So I don't know where I don't know where you get all the clearances from those over in the Senate, but the fact that we're here doing this at this late hour, basically you're telling us we're going to shut the government down because you don't have enough. I think is disgraceful. I think it's a failure of your leadership. They should be ashamed of themselves for getting us to this point. And I said before, I think people in your party ought to put your grown-up pants on. This is not what I meant by that, because this is totally avoidable. And you could bring a clean CR to the floor, and Democrats and Republicans alike would vote for it. You know it. But you're pandering to the extreme right wing of your party, and the cost is huge to a lot of people in this country. So I regret very much being here. I want to associate myself with the remarks of my ranking member, but we do not have to be here. We can go to the floor with a clean CR right now, avoid a government shutdown, and then we can go to conference on the budget, go to conference on whatever else you want, but don't hold up the workings of our government to make a political point. I thank the gentleman for yielding.
The gentleman yields back his time.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. I'm trying to look at this side, if the gentleman will allow me.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to look at this side. Gentleman from Florida is
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
At 11 o'clock, Senator Reid is going to take to the floor. And how I know that is by looking at the Senate and their actions on the vote, which was identical to the vote previous, 54 to 46. And he asked for time to begin at 11 o'clock. I'm just curious, is some of this scripted? Have you or the Speaker or the Majority Leader spoken with either Senator Reid or Senator McConnell about going to conference?
In fact, that's a good question, and I cannot answer it honestly. I have spoken.
Well, answer it dishonestly.
Well, the gentleman knows I'm an Eagle Scout.
We're used to it.
And I told you that I don't know about the conversations that may have taken place with Mr. Reid or Mr. McConnell, but I have had discussions with the Speaker, John Boehner, and I have with the Majority Leader, Eric Cantor.
All right. And I would assume...
But I cannot answer the other side.
Earlier, when we were here, I said that I felt that the majority, or my friends in the Republican Party, had lost their collective minds. I no longer feel that way. I know it, that you all have just lost it. It is impossible for a conference to take place before 2 a.m. in the morning, which is the legislative drop-dead date and time, with reference to the same-day rule that we passed. And I'm curious about what's wrong with regular order. We've called for it repeatedly over the course of time, and it simply has not happened. So since you spoke with the Speaker and the Majority Leader, I would assume, again, I was watching television. I normally don't watch the Sunday shows because it's the same people saying the same damn thing all the time, and I don't learn anything. But the fact of the matter is I did watch it this Sunday for the reason that I knew that we would get to this point. And it's Rand Paul, the senator from Kentucky, who came up with the idea, I don't know about on your side, but he certainly said it on television, that we should go to conference. And I would assume that he thought that that meant soon. Now, I would also assume that you all have your conferees in mind, or maybe it is the chair of the Appropriations Committee and someone else that the Majority Leader or Speaker may designate. But the simple fact of the matter is, Mr. Chairman, you all are giving new meaning to the theater of the absurd. You would have to know that we're getting ready to shut the government down. There isn't going to be any conference between now and 2 a.m. in the morning, and that's when the government is going to shut down. Now, whether it shuts down a minute or an hour or a day, you're running terrible risks. This self-executing rule might better be described as self-immolation, because the essence of what you're doing is causing yourselves to burn up on legislative time, and you could be about the business and could have been about the business of seeing to it that this government did not shut down. Now, you're trying in all honesty to do everything except the one thing that would work, and that's bringing a clean CR here that would keep the government operating for 45 days and give you time to get past the debt ceiling and whatever leverage that you were claiming that you're going to have. This is beyond ridiculous, and I know what your hope is. Your hope is that the Senate won't have, that Senator Reid at 11 o'clock, I'm trying to get there, that Senator Reid won't accept your conference call, or it's not a call, is it? It's insist and request a conference and insist on the Senate amendment. So assume that he does not. Then what I'm going to be hearing from you all in the morning and hearing on television is it's the Senate that caused this to happen, when in fact it is the House of Representatives and their leadership and a rump conference of people that you have let mobocracy take over democracy in this matter, particularly as it pertains to a rule like this. How dare you put us in the position, in the minority, which you are supposed to be protecting, of not protecting that minority with rights that are ordinarily given. Oh yeah, you can do anything you want. You're the Rules Committee. You're 9 strong. You can waive anything you want until it's something that's reasonable. And I hope Senator Reid sticks it right back at you, so as how you will clearly understand that they mean business when they say that they're going to bring a clean CR.
Gentleman yields back his time. Gentleman from Colorado is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm hard-pressed to see how tonight's action is anything more than an exercise in looking busy. It only confirms that a shutdown will occur of the United States government. It's a process, a time-tested process of the conference resolving differences within the House and the Senate that many on my side of the aisle, myself included, have been encouraging the Speaker to move forward on with regards to the budget discrepancies between the House and the Senate for many, many months. So it's a cliff that we've seen coming for miles and miles. But 2 months ago, we didn't try to reconcile the numbers. 1 month ago, 3 months ago. And here we are at the 11th hour. That's quite literal, 11 p.m., 11th hour before the shutdown occurs. And now, without any conceivable possibility of the time to move forward on a conference for this CR, we're setting in motion a process to conference on the CR. So essentially, we're confirming a shutdown here now. Whether it's this process or some process, ultimately this House, it'll be the House's choice and the Republicans' choice when federal government reopens. I mean, it's up to you, Mr. Chair, and your colleagues. It will be closed because the government does not have money until Congress acts and appropriates the money. I hope that happens sooner rather than later. It will happen. This is not the end of the United States of America, Mr. Chair. I sure hope not. It's not the permanent closure of the United States of America. But, Mr. Chair, we are temporarily closing the United States of America, and I hope that you and your colleagues and the Speaker choose to reopen the United States government sooner rather than later. And that's, here we are an hour before, and we're debating a bill that doesn't do that. It doesn't reopen the government. And it makes us look busy as we approach the deadline. But other than that, it's not a substantial move to restore the viability of the federal government. So I hope that we're here again sooner rather than later, Mr. Chair. I hope shortly after midnight or tomorrow or the next day, we're able to once again continue to fund the United States government, as is our responsibility here in the United States Congress, regardless of our policy disagreements on many, many issues that may occur. We do have a fundamental responsibility to the American people, and I hope that we can fulfill that sooner rather than later. I'll yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. Chair will now be in, excuse me, gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just couldn't help but talk about how distressed I am by the civics lesson that I'm getting here. I'll say to my friend from Colorado, I had absolutely no expectation of being here at 11 o'clock the night before a government shutdown. I voted in good faith to send a package to the Senate. And in return, what I got was do it my way or we're not going to do it at all. So I sat down with my colleagues and I crafted a second package that I sent to the Senate. The response to which I got back was do it my way or we're not going to do it at all. So I sat down with my colleagues and I crafted a third package that I sent to the Senate, each one more moderate than the last, to which not only did folks not even have the courtesy to come into session to consider it, as you talk about deadlines looming, said we're going to continue to take the weekend off and we'll just come in late in the afternoon on Monday as the shutdown is less than 10 hours away, and then we'll dispose of these things. And to that third package, they again said, no, do it my way or we won't do it at all. The President of the United States proudly is taking to the airwaves at every single opportunity to say there will be no negotiation. There will be no negotiation. We will do it my way or no way at all. Now, I concede that there are some on my side of the aisle who have made that same attestation. But we have worked with those folks to bring them off of that ledge, to try to come together on a package that we can move forward, not as a Republican package, but as a House package, not just as a House package, but as a congressional package. And perhaps what you're saying is it would have been wiser not to have offered three packages, not to have made each more moderate than the last, not to have reached out the hand that many times, but to have gone ahead and gone to conference at the end of last week. And you may well be right about that. But we are where we are. And to suggest that somebody can sit at the other side of this building and say, do it my way or no way at all, and if you won't play by my rules, then the shutdown is on you, is appalling to me. Appalling to me. I have federal employees in my district too. I've been showing up each and every day, voting on these packages, again, often against the advice and counsel of my constituents who are counting on us to protect them from issues. And what we have in the package just rejected by the United States Senate is a package that said do two things. Don't treat Congress any better than you're treating the rest of America. Have the decency to have one set of rules apply to everybody who's being forced into Obamacare. And secondly, to say, you know what? If the Obama administration has already said we don't have the software to enforce the individual mandate, we're not going to be out there asking states to actually implement the checking of the individual mandate, then for Pete's sakes, take it off the books so families don't have to worry about it. We didn't get an up or down vote on the policy. We got another tabling to say this is not even worth our concern. Folks, we're better than that. And I know every single one of you has the same respect that I have for our members of the Appropriations Committee. I think you believe our chairman of the Appropriations Committee and your ranking member are honorable people who will work in good faith. And I tell you, the way this body has worked, has been through those conference committees, where you find that common ground. Now, I will tell you, in the 16 years that Republicans have controlled this institution, that's 16 out of the last 80, there have been 2 government shutdowns. Of course, in the 16 years that Democrats controlled the institution, before that, there had been 15 shutdowns. So to craft this as some sort of Republican jihad, again, offensive. We didn't need to be here. You're absolutely right. We didn't offer one package, my way or the highway. We didn't offer a second package, my way or the highway. We offered 3 packages and said, reach out. You know, the Senate could have adopted the medical device tax. Could have adopted the medical device tax. That bill on which the Senate voted 79-20 in favor of earlier this year. And instead of trying to get something done that we agree on, something done to fund the government, something done to make America better, they didn't even have a vote on it. They tabled it and said, do it my way or we won't do anything at all. I regret that we are here, but we are here. And I believe this conference offers us and my tens of thousands of federal employees back in my district a way forward. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
The gentleman yields back his time. Is the gentleman seeking additional time?
Just for 30 seconds.
The gentleman's recognized for
Because
30
I just want
seconds.
the record to reflect, the gentleman is expressing all this outrage. You want to know what outrage is? Talk to all of the 4 of us who are here. You talk about you want to negotiate, reach out. Not a single Democrat was consulted in any of your packages that you brought to the floor. You want to start negotiating? Why don't you start negotiating with your fellow colleagues in the House of Representatives? All of us were shut out of that process, and we're shut out of this process here today. And again, go back what the gentleman from Florida said. It is now 11:06. At this particular point, there is no way to avoid a shutdown, and that's on your shoulders. I thank the gentleman for
The gentleman yields back his time. Thank you very much. I appreciate the committee. Chairman will be in receipt of a motion from the gentlewoman from Grandfather Community, North Carolina, Vice Chairman of the committee.
Mr. Chairman, before I make the motion, I'd like to make one
Gentlewoman's
very
recognized.
quick comment.
For the purpose of
Our colleague from Georgia, I think, has made a very, very impassioned statement, a very eloquent statement, and I would just add one minor thing to it, and that is that the votes we've had on the floor have been bipartisan. So what we sent to the Senate have gone with a bipartisan vote.
Mr.
Chairman,
recognized for the purpose of the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move the committee grant a rule providing that the House insists on its amendments to the Senate amendment to H.J. Res. 59, the Continuing Appropriations Resolution 2014, and requests a conference with the Senate thereon. Section 2 of the rule provides that any motion pursuant to Clause 4 of Rule 22 relating to H.J. Res. 59 may be offered only by the majority leader or his designee.
You've now heard the motion from the gentlewoman from North Carolina. Is there further discussion or
Just one point.
amendment? Gentleman from Massachusetts recognized.
The gentlelady from North Carolina talked about the bipartisan nature of the votes in support of what you're doing. I remind her that there were bipartisan votes against what you're doing, and I'm happy to provide her the list of Republicans who voted against the last two efforts. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record.
Further discussion or amendment? Seeing none, the vote will now be on the motion by the gentlewoman. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Roll call.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
Ms. Fox. Aye. Mr. Bishop. Yay. Mr. Bishop. Aye. Mr. Cole. Mr. Cole. Aye. Mr. Woodall. Aye. Mr. Woodall. Aye. Mr. Nugent. Aye. Mr. Nugent. Aye. Mr. Webster. Mr. Webster, aye. Ms. Ross-Leitonen.
Aye.
Ms. Ross-Leitonen, aye. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess, aye. Ms. Slaughter.
No.
Ms. Slaughter, no. Mr. McGovern.
No.
Mr. McGovern, no. Mr. Hastings.
No.
Mr. Hastings, no. Mr. Polis.
No.
Mr. Polis, no. Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, aye.
Clerk will report.
9 yeas, 4 nays.
The motion is agreed to. Motion is agreed to. I will be the manager,
I will manage for the minority.
and the gentlewoman will
Mr.
manage.
Chairman, may I ask if we're going to go directly to the floor, or do you all have a caucus?
It is my understanding that as quickly as we get the paperwork done, we'll be down there.
Going to the floor.
That would be correct.
Thank you.
Seeing no further business, committee is now through with its work.